I keep going there. Boom. Okay, so this is going to pick up where we left off. Thank you, Arel. Luckily, we're getting to the meat now. Guys, I'm a noob when it comes to this stuff, so bear with me. So anyway, booking lead. So when you get into the point of Talkadot, when your clients or your audience members come through here, it's going to say, do you want to, hear more from Arel? And if so, are you responsible for booking speakers or not? And so this is how the system is going to know whether or not something's a booking lead, and how in the back end of your Talkadot portal, it tells you that that's a booking lead. Your referral leads have a very similar workflow. It just says, do you book speakers for events? And when they say no, but I know somebody who does, then it's going to ask them, well, what's the best way to reach out to you? And again, these are people who can introduce you to folks who can hire you. So this is what the process looks like on the client side. Now, for the mailing list leads, this actually comes up right front and center when they first get rolling inside of Talkadot. But you can see here, there's a checkbox there that indicates whether or not they want future updates from you. And this is going to be the thing to help you indicate whether or not they should be on your mailing list, in your newsletter, and all of those things. So they've just expressed interest in hearing from you. Now, like I said a little bit earlier, leads can be multiple types, okay? So a booking lead can also be on your mailing list or not. A referral lead could be on your mailing list or not. Or you can just have somebody that's only on your mailing list. So as you can tell, we have different places that people need to go inside of the system depending on what they selected. If they're not on the mailing list, well, we don't want to put them on the mailing list. But if they are, of course we do. And more importantly, if they're a booking lead or a referral lead, we want to make absolutely sure that you guys are notified with all of their Talkadot details so that you can follow up appropriately with them. So in a nutshell, we covered a lot of ground here in a short period of time. A booking or referral lead can be on your mailing list too. A booking lead can't also be a referral lead, and vice versa. And we can have somebody that's only on the mailing list who just wants to get your content. Now, everything we've built out for the automation and the integration between the two systems handles all of this categorization for you, which we'll break down here a little bit later on. But the biggest question that we get, and I'm sure, Arel, you've run into this a time or two as well, but after you've gotten those leads, how do we make the most of them? And based on all of your guys' questions that we could answer here today, that's largely in line with what we hear all the time as well. So how do I nurture them? How do I turn these into dollars? What are the best practices? Should I be using automation? Should I not be? When's the right time? All of these things we're going to be addressing here in a minute. Now, the big gap for most people, like I said earlier in the presentation, is nurturing leads after they come through. It is extremely, extremely important that you have the right habits inside of your system to be checking your tasks, to be following up, to be setting follow-up tasks on people. Otherwise, you're just going to let your leads slip through the cracks. So the takeaway that I want you to here before we move into the lead nurturing process is part of this is behavioral. In fact, I would say 50% of your lead nurturing is behavioral, making sure you have the right habits in place for following up with people inside of your system. And then the other portion of it is leaning on your technology to remind you to follow up, to do some email automation automatically for your mailing list and so on. So remember, it's not all up to the tech. We got to make sure we have the right habits in place to be able to keep moving this boat forward. So that being said, there's a lot on the screen, but I want you to first pay attention to the left-hand side of this. So the people that have expressed interest in hiring you or introducing you to somebody, again, booking leads or referral leads, are the most important grouping of people that come from Talkadot. These people said that they want to introduce you or book you, and they deserve a personalized email to them to touch base with them and reach out. And I'm going to be sharing a template with you, and I'll break down the psychology of that as well. So you won't have to invent that wheel if you don't want to. But your conversion rate will be higher if you take a more diligent approach to reaching out to these people and not lean too heavily on email automation for this group. Instead, what you want to do is lean on task automation. So if you have a follow-up process, Andy, you mentioned watertight selling. I know a few of you are using that, or we can see the follow-up process on the right-hand side. Maybe those tasks are reminding you at a certain interval to follow up with them. And you have templates preloaded, so you can just knock that task out in 2 seconds and make sure everything looks good. You will have a much higher conversion rate of getting people from leads into sales calls if you're diligent and you don't just send canned responses to everybody. Now, I want to add a qualifier here, because part of having a system is to make our lives easy, right? It's impossible to automate a process that we can't manage ourselves yet. And so if you simply start out by a simple follow-up cadence like the one on the right-hand side that we'll break down here in a second, and you do that manually, maybe you get in a rhythm of the email templates you're sending and you know exactly what you want to say. If you do it manually at first, meaning finishing the tasks and adding in email templates, still making your life easier, but maybe over time you say, wow, I just generated 100 booking leads from Talkadot. This has created 5 or 10 sales meetings for me. Now you have a baseline of how well you perform when you do it manually. And then when you get the process smoothed out enough for yourself, we can then elevate that to some automation. So I'm not removing automation off the table here for you guys with booking and referral leads, but if the goal is to maximize your dollars, you don't want to risk canned responses going out to people and then risking your conversion rate. If you have a baseline of how many sales meetings you're booking, and then you turn it into automation, now you have something to compare it against so you know whether or not that's successful. Now, a quick story here before we move on and I talk about the follow-up process. I just had a client, it was yesterday, you guys, like this is no joke, but he was going with the spray and pray model. You know, you have a bunch of leads, you just hit mass email and send off an email. This email template that got sent out had no variables filled out. Things were bolded in which things need to be personalized. He sent it out to 300 people. He got over 50 replies back, just with the not so friendliest tones, because it wasn't a personalized email and it was very obviously canned and very obviously spray and prayed. And I know some of us have even been in that seat before. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't been in that seat. And so again, the point is that his process wasn't dialed in enough before he could then lean on mass emailing and using automation. So hopefully I've drilled my point home here. It's not off the table, but you really want to make sure you have it on lock so you can compare your automation against later on. Now, I want to provide you with a simple follow-up process here. This is on the right-hand side, okay? And I'm sharing resources at the end of this that'll unlock all of this for you as well, give you templates and whatnot. But let's make this super simple. Your first follow-up is just an email to that person after the event. Again, I'm going to share an actual template with you here in a second. Then you're going to want to wait roughly 3 days. You don't want to wait too long just because, but you also don't want to do it too quickly. You know, there's a balance there. I wouldn't wait a week, but I wouldn't do it the next day. So we say roughly 3 days. And then you want to reply to that first email, something along the lines of, hey, you know, Aurel, I know you're totally busy. Just wanted to check in and see if you got this. Okay. Talk soon, Taylor. This reply methodology is really good because it keeps the previous email in a thread, and then you don't have to like reverse engineer or rewrite the template again from your first email. And it's a lot more casual. It's a lot more personal. It's more relationship oriented. It's not so transactional. Again, that reply methodology is impossible when it comes to email automation. And so by doing this manually, you'll have the ability to reply from your first email. Then you want to potentially wait another 3 days. And a good follow-up process isn't only leaning on one channel of outreach. So maybe you connect with them on LinkedIn. You throw in a note. Hey, Rel, it was great seeing you at the ADT conference. I thought LinkedIn might be a better channel for you and figure why not connect anyway. Talk soon, Taylor. And so you're just connecting with them on LinkedIn to see if you can catch their interest there. Then you're going to want to wait maybe another 3 days. And for the ambitious, this is a huge missed opportunity in our industry. But if you have the space, make a phone call. Chances are you'll leave a voicemail, and then you can send an email afterwards saying, hey, left you a voicemail. We call this a 2-1 punch. So my point here is that in any good follow-up process, if you're being as thorough as possible, you're reaching out with an omni-channel approach, meaning multiple channels, starting out with email, then a little bit of LinkedIn. If you're feeling ambitious, pick up the phone. This helps a ton, especially since most people don't pick up the phone. So you're more likely to connect with somebody. And then lastly, it can get to the point, I know all of you, drop in the chat if you're familiar with this feeling, but you don't want to like pester people, right? You don't want to feel like you're bugging them. You inherently want to provide value. And as long as you keep that front and center for yourself when you're reaching out, it won't really ever feel like that for people. So if you're not comfortable continuing past touch point 5, that's totally understandable. But I want to share a stat with you that we use in sales and marketing training all the time. And that is it takes 7 to 12 touch points before somebody has enough trust to reply to you. Okay, so that's for them to re-engage back with you. 7 to 12 touch points. As you can tell here, we're on touch point 5. And this is why Andy Neely, in our watertight selling guide, we have roughly 7 to 12 touch points depending on your caliber. If you're not feeling like you want all 12, that's totally okay. Somewhere along the way at the end of your sequence, you want to have something that we call last call email. Now, this isn't a breakup email. This is just basically like, hey, Arel, I've been reaching out for a while. I know you're totally busy. You just expressed interest in wanting to, partner up for an event. If that is the case, definitely reach out when the time is right for you, but maybe I'll check in next quarter and see how things are going then. Hope you have a great one, Taylor. So you're not breaking up with them, but you're just letting them know that you've done your diligence in following up. It's not their fault. They're really busy. They're doing their own thing, and you're preempting them that you're following back up with them later on. Now, the really cool thing about this is you guys can standardize all of this so you don't have to reinvent the wheel over and over again. You can have the email template for email 1, 2, and 5. You can have your LinkedIn note handy so you can copy and paste that when you need it. And again, for the ambitious, you can have a phone call script that you lean on when you're trying to call people. So this is where leaning on your systems can be really easy. These tasks should take no more, aside from the phone call, than 30 seconds to a minute to knock out. If you do your work ahead of time, write your email templates, put your task automation in play, it can feel like a lot to follow up with people, but the goal is that your technology makes that as easy as possible. So Jasmine, isn't that similar for purchases? People need to hear about product 5 through 7 times. Yes, that's exactly right, Jasmine. They need to hear you. And especially with personal brands, they might correlate you to the product, even though we're all service professionals. But you're 100% right. People need the reiteration of your work before they're going to have enough trust potentially to work with you. Now, I would reason to believe, though, these people said they're ready to hire you potentially or refer you. They're much warmer than somebody just on your mailing list. And this is why I ended this at touch point 5 for this webinar here with you. I would almost guarantee that the vast majority of people that come through your world as booking or referral leads will respond back to you by touch point 5 because they have already committed to wanting to introduce you or book you. So use this as a starting point. Again, it's 5 touch points. It's thorough enough. And then if you realize, you know what, I'm not getting the engagement I want, maybe you bump it up. Or maybe you find out by touch point 3, you're rocking and rolling every time, so you can trim it back. This is just meant to be a starting point so that you can then iterate on your outreach. If you follow this, I guarantee you will turn your booking and referral leads into a ton of business. So let's see this in context here for a moment. I'll read this email out too for those that might not be able to make out some of the words. So this is an actual email template. I loaded up into SpeakerFlow, by the way. This is what you would see when you insert a template. But notice how the subject line says something like "great being with you at," and then event name. In this case, I'm using ADT, comma, first name. So it's not like, do you want to hire me? You mentioned you want to book me. Let's talk. It's just meant to be a pretty soft subject line that feels personal, so they're more likely to open it. Now, this might seem like a really simple template, but there's a lot of psychology going on here that I want to share with you. So let me read it first. Hey, Davin, just wanted to say thanks for coming to my presentation at the ADT conference and for providing me with feedback afterwards. I noticed in your response that you expressed interest in potentially working together. Are you open to scheduling a 30-minute call so we can see if there's alignment there? Really excited to see what you have planned for your event. Hopefully we can add some value. Let me know if you're up for a chat and we can get something scheduled. Taylor. So notice how I didn't give them my life story and why I'm valuable, and I didn't ask for the sale right away. We're trying to go for micro conversions, which is basically one step at a time. Notice how I didn't even put my meeting link in here. I don't want to make an assumption that they're willing to book a meeting with me. And so I'm conscious of their time and their willingness to have a conversation by using phrasing like, "Are you open to?" which comes from the great Merritt Kahn, sales professional, amazing speaker. So if you want more on "Are you open to?", then definitely reach out to Merritt. But nonetheless, let's break down some of the psychology. Just wanted to say thanks, again, reinforcing where they met you, and for providing me with feedback afterwards. This lets the person know that, oh yeah, I did submit some feedback for a rel. And then you say, I noticed in your response that you expressed interest in potentially working together. Notice how that's softer, right? It's not like you said you wanted to hire me. You can try that language out, let me know how it goes. But this is letting the person know, the prospect know, that it's still up for debate whether or not we're going to be a good fit together. And that's totally okay. We're trying to lower the barrier for them wanting to have a call. Now I'm taking their time into consideration. Are you open to, right? That language is super powerful. So we can see if there's alignment there. Again, knowing that we still need to qualify each other. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know if we're going to be a good fit yet, but we both expressed interest in it. So let's chat. Really excited to see what you have planned for your event. Just reinforcing that they said they had an event they potentially want to bring you into. Hope we can add some value. And then I reinforce that call to action. Let me know if you're up for a chat and we'll get something scheduled. So at first glance, the call to action is let's book a meeting, right? But it's actually give me a reply. I'm not asking them to schedule on my calendar right away. We're just trying to get that first step out of the way where they reply to us, and then we can ask for the meeting and play a round of calendar battleship if we need to. So a very simple template that will get a ton of replies simply because you're lowering the barriers. You're not asking them to meet right away. And then, of course, you're getting a reply out of it. Great conversation in the chat so far, guys. Love that. Insert HTML plain text. Yes, Bill, you're totally right about that. That removes the gray border. So super good technical advice there. Let's look at a new referral lead outreach. You're going to notice this looks very similar. Now we've got Garnett here. Great being with you at ADT, Garnett. Just wanted to say thanks for coming to my presentation and providing me feedback. That's literally the same line. I noticed in your response that you expressed interest in introducing me to someone who can benefit from my talk. Are you open to introducing me to that person? I'm happy to provide wording to make that intro as easy as possible for you. Thanks again for helping us spread the word. I appreciate you. And so the psychology of this one is basically similar to the booking lead. It's just the context changed from you want to hire me to you want to introduce me. And the most valuable line in this template is I'm happy to provide some wording to make the intro as easy as possible for you. If I just saw a rel speak for the first time, the way I may communicate a rel to somebody else might not be in the way a rel wants me to communicate his value to somebody else. And so by putting it on the table that you can provide some wording to make that intro as easy as possible, you're accomplishing two things. It's easier for me to make that introduction to somebody. And two, a rel's giving me that wording that would be valuable for him, for me to use for that introduction. So that's the idea of the referral lead. You want to provide some wording ideally. And again, notice how there's no links in here. I'm just trying to get a reply, and then we can kind of carry the conversation forward. And yes, Dave, we'll provide all these templates too, and I'll send you a PDF of the slides so you have those handy. So that's the booking lead and the referral lead. That's email one. The second touch point is replying to that email and then connecting on LinkedIn, potentially making a phone call, and then having a last call, potentially email. So we won't go through all of those templates, but it's usually that first one that's the biggest barrier of entry of what do I say when somebody comes through my world. So you get the idea? Use tasks, templates, and when leads come through, you can make sending them as easy as possible so you don't have to reinvent your wheel every single time. And like I said earlier, if you get your process to a point that it's working, you're booking sales meetings regularly, it's totally on the table to consider automation and where that can be most applicable for you. Much like delegating out things, it's really difficult to build automations without having proof of concept that something works manually first. So now the big question is, okay, well, we've got booking leads out of the way, referral leads out of the way. What in the world do we do with the people who are on the mailing list? Because there's no way in heck, if I run a conference of 500 people, I just added 150 people to my list that I'm reaching out to them one-on-one. Arel, you got time for that? No, look at him. He's like, no. And
As the
so
big one said, ain't nobody got time for that. That's a little old school.
Nobody got time for that. Yeah. That's exactly right. And so basically the idea here is you want to move people from a one-to-many marketing capacity to a one-to-one outreach. And the way we do that is by warming up your list. And so when people subscribe to your mailing list, a best practice is that you have something called a welcome series. And I'll take a moment to briefly break that down here in a bit. And I've got a full resource on how you can create your own as well. But this welcome series is basically like 7 to 10 emails over, I don't know, a couple of months that's meant to give people context about who you are, provide extra value for them, solve problems, and then make an ask toward the end, like booking a sales call, buying a particular offer, or whatever ask you want to have in there. You're basically teaching people that you're super valuable and you have a mechanism in place for them to work with you. Now, you do want to use automation for this because only people on your mailing list haven't shown really sales intent yet. They haven't been a booking lead. They might not be a referral lead. They haven't submitted a contact form. They just said they want some content, and we don't really know if they have any economic decision-making power. And you don't want to waste your time on your one-on-one outreach with people that haven't shown that intent yet. So you use email automation in this context to deliver that welcome series and keep them on your newsletter cadence, maybe once every 2 weeks or once a month, basically nurturing them along until ideally they reply back to you and maybe are in a position to buy from you. So in this particular context, it's super favorable to use email automation, and you don't need to do it manually for a while before doing it, mainly because you want to market in the one-to-many context here rather than the one-to-one. So let's talk about the welcome series in a nutshell. Again, I'm going to glaze over this, and then I have a full guide and resource for you if you want to fill in the blanks and write your own welcome series that we can plug into the system for you. So basically, you have two different types of people that come through your list. You have subscribers and you have like leads, people who submit like contact forms or lead magnets that tell you they want to buy from you. But either way, you're just saying, hey, thanks for joining, or thanks for coming to my event. It was great seeing you there. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be informing you about X, Y, and Z, so stay tuned. You're preempting them basically for the welcome series and then just reconfirming with them that they're on your list now. So you enroll them in your welcome series, and you have an intro email that tells them more about you personally. This is meant to build a relationship with the person asynchronously, so they get to know you a little bit more. Again, I provide templates in the resource that breaks down each one of these steps. And then another email, maybe a week later or so, we find that about a week out for every one of the welcome series emails is best. But now you're helping them solve a problem. For us at SpeakerFlow, we provide a systems checkup lead magnet so that we can break that down with them potentially. For you, it might be a guide that you have. Whatever your core problem is that you help people solve, you want to outline that inside of an email and potentially provide a resource for them to solve that problem. Then you want to surprise them with some more resources, basically adding in value. Again, we don't want to sound like salespeople here, and that's not the point of this anyway. It's just to always provide value. So give them another resource. Maybe it's a podcast you were on, a blog you wrote, a resource you have, a quiz or an assessment you have. It can literally be anything. We just want to surprise and delight the people that are on our list so that they become avid followers of ours. This next email is called Behind the Scenes. This is my favorite email of all time. I use it all the time. For those of you that are on our email list, you may see this. But this is basically a picture in behind the scenes. You're pulling the curtain back and sharing a story you learned, a lesson that you've learned. Maybe it was the hard way. Maybe you had a client success story and you're telling the story of a client. This is a way for people to get a peek behind the curtain, know you more personally, and have a meta layer of you describing the work you do and why you're successful at it. And that's why I like the behind the scenes email the most, is it bridges a really personal connection with people, and it gives them that meta layer of why you do what you do best and builds that trust for people. Now we're getting into the offer. So this can be, hey, I'm a speaker, book me for an event. Obviously change the wording up there. This can be a coaching call. This could be a book that you have. Maybe you have a paid newsletter list that you want somebody to join. You're basically making an offer to teach people that you sell things here. There's nothing wrong with that. You want them to be inclined to reach out to you when they're ready, but changing the psychology from simply providing value to providing an offer teaches that person that they can buy things from you. Then you reinforce that offer with a case study. and then you remind them about it, and then you let them know what to expect next, i.e. being on your newsletter list. And again, an email every single week is a perfect cadence for this. You can lengthen this, you can shorten this, or you can change the context of the emails out entirely. But there's definitely a psychological flow that we've designed here in any welcome series to move people from value orientation to solving their problem, to making an offer that will really solve that problem, to letting them know what's next so they continue to stay engaged with your email list. Now, I guarantee you, if you guys employed the welcome series, you had your automations or task automation in place to reach out to booking leads and referral leads, there's going to be no question about where your leads are going, how to make the most of those, and how to seriously grow your revenue, simply because it doesn't feel like everything is a chaotic mess. You feel like you really have a solid lead process there. Now, of course, if you have any questions about this, feel free to load them up in chat. We'll definitely cover some of those in Q&A. But of course, we don't have enough time in the world to go through all the context of every email out there or the entire welcome series, but we've created these guides. This is on our resources page. I don't know if you guys have checked in on that lately, but this is all 100% ungated content. So there are 35 PDFs and resources on there about building systems in your business. The two, though, that I want you to look for are watertight selling. This is the business development process you can use for booking leads and referral leads, and then get those into sales meetings. And then, of course, the welcome series. And in both of these, we provide all of the templates, the cadences, and they're all fillable. So you can even write your own templates and stuff inside of there, should you want to turn that back to us to build inside of your account for you. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible to be able to create these systems so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and take everything I just talked about so you can start developing that lead flow process. So feel free to go check those out. If any of you have trouble finding those, let me know, and I will certainly send you an email back. Okay, we made it, you guys. Feeling good? So the Talkadot and SpeakerFlow integration. How does this whole thing come together? So first, let's talk about the goals of the integration. For us, we wanted to give you unlimited potential with how you want to design your own automations. Zoho has an incredible automation builder that we use to say, put it in this app and put it in this app and tag them and add to workflows. And we didn't want you to just be limited to only adding people to the CRM. We want you to be able to add people wherever you would like, enroll them in whatever you want, create whatever tasks you want. And so this integration will allow you to do that. You're also going to be able to trigger actions within any Zoho application. And the most important piece here is pass all of the information from Talkadot, whether or not they're a referral lead, a booking lead, all of their information like their phone number, company, email, everything that comes through Talkadot. We want that all translated into the system automatically, so you don't have to fill that stuff out or run any imports yourself. So a simpler flowchart for you. In a nutshell, this is how the automation works. You've got a Talkadot submission that comes through. We need to check, did they want to be on the mailing list? If so, we're adding them to your mailing list and optionally dropping them into a workflow to deliver some content if you would like, or just tag them. And regardless of if they're on the mailing list or not, they're always going to the next step, which is creating or updating that record inside of your CRM so that you have their name, their email, their company, their title, their phone number, everything you need to be able to take that person and have context for them. The really cool thing is that we're also adding a note to their records, again, with all of the Talkadot information. So you can see the history of every form or every Talkadot submission that person may have made. And we're, of course, creating a task for booking leads and referral leads, not the mailing list people, because, you know, there's too many of those, but the booking leads and the referral leads, the people who have potential interest in driving you revenue, we're creating a task for how you can follow up with them. And yes, Dave, we'll send you that recording. So we got your back. So thanks for that question too. Actually, in fact, after this, I'll just make sure both of the recordings are in the follow-up email for you guys, so you can look at both webinars in sequence. So that's basically the automation. We want Talkadot submission, add to campaigns, and then for sure, add to the CRM, add a note, and create a task for so that you guys are notified. So should we see this thing in action? Let's do it. All right. So you guys are seeing a little bit of a flow here. Again, I have a full guide that I'll be sharing with you towards the end, how you can build this flow yourself or how we can build this out for you guys. But let's actually see this in action. And here we're in a real CRM account. We're going to wait for that task to come through. And here I'm going to submit this Talkadot link. So you get to see the actual action of how this comes through. So Arel, you want me to use talk?
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
All right, fantastic. So then I'm going to add my email. Again, you get a keyword with Talkadot. So I'm just entering in the keyword Arel wants me to use. I definitely want to be on the mailing list. So let's make sure I am on the mailing list. Did I find Arel's session valuable today? Of course. Was it engaging? Yep. Actionable, interactive, relevant, inspiring. Again, there's a lot of psychology behind those questions, you guys. If you've missed the first webinar, we'll definitely share that with you so you can see why we're asking those questions in Talkadot. But then now it says, how interested are you in hearing future sessions by Arel? I'm definitely super interested in that. Do you book speakers for events? Let's go down the yes path. Would you like to book Arel for a future speaking engagement? So they're really doing their work here. Yes, I'm interested. And then what's the best way for Arel to contact you? So I fill in my name. And then what's my number? All right. Now, if I accidentally click that, I could just go back and fix that if I needed to. So they're really smart in giving people the option to go back if need be. And then I can hit next. It's going to ask me for my job title and then what the organization is. You can hit next. And then I'm just going to, throw in some test language here just to move through this. And then I'm going to hit next. So I just submitted the Talkadot submission. And now, generally, the way the automation works is that at midnight every night, all of your Talkadot leads will come through the system. But we have Jared here helping us sync that right away. So inside of Talkadot, you can also press sync whenever you want to send all of the leads into the system. So let's check our history, see what happened here. We see that everything went through. And if I just do a slight refresh, check it all out. Now it looks like we were doing some testing. We got Test McTest. Maybe that's the new product offer at McDonald's. Not sure, but you can see here. This is my lead. Taylor got created. It says I'm a booking lead, so review and reach out for spin. If I click on that, we'll see all of the Talkadot details that came through and whether or not I was a booking list or if I was on the mailing list. And then if I go to my actual lead record inside of the system, this is where things get exciting. It's going to tell me the conference name and the date. We didn't have a chance to load in the event name when we tested this. So normally this would read something like, I don't know, Talkadot webinar, and then with the hyphen there. But it loaded in the lead source right away. For you guys, this might say, event rather than conference. It created the task again, which you see. And you'll see all of the note submissions as well with all of those details. So when this came through, it put me in the right place. It knew I was a lead because I wanted to hire Arel for a gig. It added the note, it created the task, and it also added me to Arel's mailing list so that I can continue to get those updates that I need. So that's basically how this works. And then the last thing that we added, because we've learned that people want to be able to find all of their Talkadot leads within the system, whether they're a lead or a contact. And so we're also tagging them with Talkadot. So if you ever wanted to search for all of your new Talkadot submissions, you would be able to do that. And then Dave, this is a great question. So each of you may have different fields inside of your systems than the ones that you're seeing here. So Dave, you have a custom event name and date fields. And so we can totally have the automation fill those out if they're in the context of the source field. If they're in the context of, for example, like, an upcoming speaking engagement, like your event information fields, we may not want to populate those. But the benefit of using Zoho Flow for all of this is that we can design the automation however we would like with whatever fields inside of the CRM or campaigns are getting filled out. It's a great question. So Bill, for booking leads, do we get the info when they're interested in booking? Mean the yes possibility, maybe later question. Arel, I think that's a head nod, yeah?
Yeah, so inside of your dashboard on Talkadot, when you go to your My Lead section, you'll be able to see how they've identified themselves. And you can also download all of them as a CSV file. And you'll have a different column that will tell you all of their information and how they rose their hand. So you'll be very clear on who's who and how to see them. And then all that will get put into SpeakerFlow as well. So you'll be able to see all that info.
That's right. That's an awesome question.
Great
Nice.
question.
Do we have any other questions in the chat currently? Custom event names, we handled that. Stephanie, 30,000 responses, completion rate. Yep, that's awesome. Yeah, the team at Talkadot has really optimized this for conversion rate optimization. Like it is awesome how many people we've already seen come through the automation. So fantastic. So that's how the automation works, guys. I'm going to take a moment here to pause, though, because I want to give Arel the floor for a moment, because I want you to, Arel, kind of highlight some of the case studies that you've seen from this, your own personal work with it. And then, you know, of course, we don't need to name names, but, you know, let's talk about some of the successes of this thing when we're actually following a process with the tool.
Yeah, it's and thank you very much. And I just want to just reiterate very quickly before I jump into that part that if you saw this and it passed over, you rewatch this, really Taylor is really dropping some major, as DJ Khaled says, major keys. So I just want to acknowledge you for that, Taylor. And what's great about this is we've all had the experience of speaking, having that rush of people come up to us afterwards and not being able to talk to everyone. Well, what's happening so well, I'll give you a perfect example. There was one of our users who just did an event in August. Yeah, it was August. And after that event, he got a list of people who were leads. He's able then to follow up with them and create a system following what Taylor just broke down to you. And in October, end of October, so like a couple of days ago, maybe a week or so ago, that turned into a client for an event in December. So what's great about that is that was through multiple conversations. Now, if you noticed in the Talkadot link, when Taylor was done doing the survey, there was a blue bar that said book a meeting. So if someone's really super hot, they can click on that link and schedule a meeting to book with you on your calendar right away. But by following a sequence similar to what you just saw Taylor break down, the first email that was sent out was, the response was, hey, I'm really busy right now. Let me get back to you. And he said, sure, no problem. And then sent that follow-up email, is now a good time? Yes. So having that ability to do the touch points and have that systemized and then creating it so that your CRM, SpeakerFlow in this case, is really locked in, it allows not for things to get lost in the sauce. Because I don't know about you, but as a speaker, as soon as I finish doing a speaking engagement, my mind almost shuts off and I'm on to the next one, right? And what we're not doing is going back 2 steps and spending time with it. So a lot of times what you're going to experience with this being automated is you can just log into your CRM, right? And I use SpeakerFlow. I'm a big fan. I've been a user for years now, and see what needs to be done. And they're categorized, because I don't like to, if you ask me to manually enter in all of the information, it ain't gonna happen, right? It's like the leads is gonna sit there and it's be like, yeah, one day I'm gonna download it and upload it. One day I'm gonna type it in. So the process of having it right then and there has been really great in getting contracts that normally would get slipped through. Because the last thing I'll say about it, which is like really super important to get, is that just because someone's super interested in booking you doesn't mean that they're going to remember to reach out to you when they leave the conference, because 1,000 things come up. So having this systematic approach allows for the people who genuinely want to work with you but get caught up in their day-to-day life when they leave their event from not forgetting your name and not forgetting that they want to book you. And sometimes I'll call it, let me just plug my thing in while we're talking, because I realized I didn't have my charger plugged in. I'm trying to manage 2 things in my head. So I want to plug this in here. So one of the things that I think is interesting, and this literally just happened to me today, plugging this in, I'm at an event that I was at right before this event, and someone who has booked me to speak was at that event. They see me and they go, oh my gosh, like we should have you come back. And I was like, yeah, definitely. Here's the thing. I haven't emailed them in who knows how long, and they haven't emailed me. But the moment they saw me, it kind of triggered the, yeah, you're a really good fit. So a lot of what Taylor is teaching you how to do is to make sure you stay top of the mind. like a movie. Sometimes there's a great movie out and you totally forget about it. You'd love to see it, or a show on Netflix and you'd love to see it. And then someone triggers that memory, and then you're like, yeah, today's the day I'm going to commit to it. And it might be 5 to 7. So that's why this approach and this automation is so important, because most of us as speakers, we just want to speak, if I can be transparent. We don't like doing the nitty-gritty stuff. So the automation takes that away. And the way that it flows and works with Talkadot, it was custom built so that it's a great experience for all of you. So I'm just super excited about how it all just works, and it's really, really beautiful.
Heck yeah. So, well, yeah, Michelle, that's why I love Talkadot, the integration will speak mic drop. Yeah, thank you, Michelle. We hope it's valuable for you. Let's put a bow on this thing a little bit here. I want to break down one other thing. So let me move here. I've got some resources for you guys that I want to make sure you get. So you can see my taco emoji, which, can we give Apple some credit on the detail of that taco emoji? Look at the cilantro in there and the onions. It's crazy. So I'm a squirrel, you guys. All right, here we are. So I have 3 different points for you. Now, you're never supposed to have 3 different call to actions in a webinar, so don't be like me. But there's so much stuff that we just want to make sure you guys have set up. And so, I'm going to be dropping some links here, okay? So the first thing, if you didn't see the first webinar here, Arel and the team have been gracious enough to unlock Pro, the tier in which you would need the integration, through 12/15, December 15th. Is that right, Arel? 12/15? Okay, fantastic. Well, I guess it is now. So 12/15.
It is, yeah, it is.
You guys can get sign up for Pro for free, so you can start making use of Talkadot, maybe squeeze it in for some of your presentations through the rest of the year. Now, we've also created a full Google document to build this automation yourself. Dave, I'm looking at you. I know you're a tech-savvy guy. If you wanted to build the automation out yourself, put in your, is that not the right link? Is that, Jared, can you double check that link for me? The Talkadot one, is that not redirecting for you guys? Well, then we're going to do this. I'm going to grab that share link. It looks like some of it's working. I set up a redirect. You guys know how those goes? So there's the Google document link directly if that redirect wasn't going. So this is a full Google document basically outlining how to build the automation step by step with literally every detail. If you want to follow this, it's certainly possible. It's not that hard if you've used some Zoho Flow. But we also have an offer for you guys if you want us to build this out yourself and you're an existing SpeakerFlow customer. We'll build this out. It'll get done in the next 3-ish days. And it falls under our a la carte request at $97. So if you want us to build this thing out for you front to back, you won't have to lift a finger. It was consider it done. Submit that form. You'll be on the list for us to build that out. And once everything is built out, then we will run the invoice. So we have 2 options for you. You can build it out yourself, or you can have us do it. And if someone in here is currently in the implementation process, just let us know and we can build that out as well. The last thing, again, that I'm going to reinforce is the resource library. This just got revamped as of last week. I've been waiting for this webinar to drop it to all of our diehard fans. So all of those 35 different guides, the watertight selling, the email marketing, and a bunch of other things are completely free, ungated, available for all of you to download. So make sure you check that out. So again, all the links are there. I'll be sharing the links in the email after this, along with the slides and along with the recording. So let's just take a quick minute to make some space for some Q&A. I see a few other chats. Carolyn, do I need the Pro version for the integration? There you go. Thank you, Arel, for answering that. Now, Bill Staten, I wanted to call your question out about what if they ghost you? And I hope I answered this. It was probably less directly in the presentation, but after that first email, if someone ghosts you, and I think Arel alluded to this a little bit earlier too, with how his story about somebody reaching out. But basically the idea here is if someone ghosts you, you just want to keep the follow-up process going on. So you want to have those 4 or 5 touch points in place to remove that ghosting factor. And then so long as you've done your diligence and they still haven't replied after that maybe 4 or 5 touch point flow, then you can rest assured knowing you did your best and then maybe check in next quarter or something like that. So I hope that answers your question. The thing about ghosting that I hear all the time is I sent one follow-up, one email, and I didn't hear anything. That's not really like ghosted. They just might be busy, or maybe they suck at managing their inbox, which, you know, can happen. And there's a bunch of different personal reasons why people don't respond. So if you have a good follow-up process where at the end, you know, you can cut bait if you've done your diligence, that's usually going to be the best case scenario. So is there a replay? Yes, totally a replay. We will definitely be sending that. So if you registered, you're on the list, and I'll be sending the replays, the PDFs, and all the links as well. Mark, is it possible to tweak the Talkadot slide to be my brand colors? Is that currently a feature right within Talkadot RL, or is that something like download, change it in Canva type of thing?
Exactly. So right
Use a
now,
QR code.
if you want to do your own branding right now, what we recommend is just download our template, throw it into Canva. We have a template that we can send you that's ready to go that you can just plug into Canva. So that would be the easiest way to do it. So if you want to shoot me your email, I can shoot you that Canva link, and then you can plug and play and move things around how you like.
For sure. And then Susan, I saw you were already using Talkadot, which is awesome. So you're not seeing where the person said yes, possibly, maybe later. I'll shoot you an email afterwards and we can sort that out. We might need to, you know, enhance the webhook a little bit. So stay tuned. Being recorded. Thanks, Taylor. Yep. Please remind me, does Talkadot surveys separate by date? This is a great question. Like, you get the date with the event name combo. Aurel, you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So right now it's the same QR code, the same URL. So it's not like a Survey Monkey, right? No shame to them in any way, but you'd have to use a different one for each survey that you do.
Right.
What we do is we keep it one persistent QR code, one persistent link. And so you can just throw it up. And as your data gets put in, it'll separate it by date. And if you have more than one presentation on the same day, you can also separate your talks by that date as well. So all of that's done automatically for you. And if you want to combine let's say you're doing 2 talks in one day, you can combine 2 reports within the Talkadot platform. So absolutely.
Right. This is also why we designed the integration. Jared, shout out to you, man, for syncing at midnight every night. So if you run your event, you get a bunch of Talkadot submissions, and then you didn't get a chance to update the event name, you have that ability before it would sync. And then you can always press the sync button in your settings to send everybody directly to the system. So that way, as much information is filled out as possible. So after an event, you can fill in the event details or beforehand. And then you can either manually sync or just wait for midnight to come through before everybody gets sent to the system. And this makes sure you have the ability to, you know, fill in the event name and make sure the date's accurate and all of those things. Andy, so coming up to you, see a bunch of questions or messages down here. So coming back to an earlier question, these leads sit in our leads database or our contacts database? So this is an awesome question. We racked our brains over what's the best way to handle this, specifically for referral leads versus booking leads, right? Because referral leads, they're not like leads themselves. They can only introduce you to people who in essence would become leads. So if somebody's a booking lead and they don't already exist in your database, they would be in your leads database. But if somebody has said that they can introduce you, because they themselves are not a lead, they can only introduce you to someone who is, we've opted to add them as contacts with a certain contact type as like a referral source, so that you can generate more intros from them, because they're going to introduce you to a lead. It's not like you'd reach out to a referral lead in the same way you'd reach out to any other lead. And since this person has enough trust in you to make an introduction, we believe that they should be labeled as contacts. Again, though, since this is all powered through Zoho Flow, that can change if you have a preference one way or the other. But for us, it made sense that people who refer you that don't have buying power should be contacts, because they trust you enough to refer you, but they themselves aren't leads and ideally are going to introduce you to somebody who would be a lead. So if you have any other questions about that, feel free to email me. We can break that down more specifically, but hopefully that's a good starting point for you. Download the QR code. Cool. Yes, thanks. Canva link, cool. Canva template, nice. Put this Q&A in there too, make your life easier. QR code. Any other questions in here? Let's see. Request, still waiting. So you're at the bottom of the screen. Just want to make sure I'm on the queue. Bill, you're on the queue. Don't worry about it. I got you. Cool. Thanks for the clarification. Yep, glad that was helpful, Andy. Looks like we're going to get the Canva template Okay, and Steven. Yep, Steven, gotcha. So the a la carte option, that $97 for us, it is not included in like the pro user of Talkadot. It's that the functionality of the integration is possible is what you're getting. So Talkadot needs to be a paid for license before integrations are possible. For us to build the automation out for you, because it's custom to everybody, that just falls under one of our a la carte tiers, hence the $97. So we'll get you sorted. Susan, we've got you covered as well. And then anybody else, I'll be sending the links to submit that form as well. We'll make sure you're on the list. And then Bill, I've made sure in case that didn't submit that I get you on there too. So yes,
Yeah.
Pat, what's that link? So that Google document I shared with you guys informs you of what that link is. It's called a webhook in Zoho Flow. So that's where the link goes. Yep. And I'll take care of you. You just hit me up.
And if you, can I share my screen? Someone had a question.
Yeah.
It's probably easier for me to share.
I'll allow it.
All right.
Booyah.
There we go. So
Jasmine, I'll get back to you here in a sec.
Someone asked about the sharing of the testimonial. So the way that it works is twofold. Let me just pull my thing out. Okay. So when you, so for those of you who've not seen Talkadot, when you do your speaking engagement, all of your events automatically get populated here. You can add them before time or not, and then they'll just come in. So this right here is the feedback that Taylor just gave me. So if we click here, this was a speaking engagement I gave like yesterday. If you click on this link right here, it'll turn all of your objective data into a social media share. If you click here, it'll take your top testimonials right here. So the question was, how do I share the testimonials on the card? So that's how you grab the first few. If there's one you really want to share, like maybe just this one, you would click on those three dots right there, and then you can download and share just that one. So if there's one individual one you want to share, you can do that. If you want to do more than one, right now we just do the top ones. And then in some time down the roadmap, we might look into an integrating of like dragging and dropping or adding or something like that. But that's not a feature that you can do right now. Or you can just click here or copy this URL, and that will share a public view of this entire report for anyone to see. So great question.
Yeah, so cool. The social proof of that tool, you guys. It's yeah. I mean, just the booking and referral mailing list stuff, the stuff that we covered here today, like that's 50% of the equation, you know, being able to get the reports, the testimonials, the sharing it on social, like there's a whole half of the tool available for you to generate business from your social media stuff or your website. It's top notch, you guys. Nice work. Okay, Jasmine, I want to cover your question here. So do you have a Talkadot source? So this is a great question. And I get this a lot with source because it's like, what is the actual source? Is it Talkadot or was it the event you were at? Truly. And so technically the conversion point was Talkadot, which is why we're tagging them as Talkadot so you can still find those people. But in the source field, we're actually labeling the source as an event. Because you actually got that lead from the event, Talkadot was simply the mechanism in which you allowed you to get that lead. So if you still wanted to find how many leads did I get from Talkadot, that's possible because of the tagging, but the actual source came from an event that you were at, and then which event should be specified as the event name with the event date. So you can get all fancy reporting with what events have led to the most spin and most leads and these types of things. So the source itself is event, and then we're tagging with Talkadot so we can still segment those out should you need to. Dave, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming by. I'll make sure you get the recordings. Susan, this is a good question. So Arel, any recommendations on what to say when you share it on social? It seems a little bit awkward, which fair enough. It's like, look at how cool I am. I got these great. Yeah, that's very, it's not easy for everyone, you know? So what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so the best framework, and I threw in a quick, I was typing an answer to that, Susan. So the best framework to think of how to share the data, it's not about, wow, look how awesome my presentation was. It's always about the audience. It's about them. So saying things to the effect of, I just spoke at the governor's conference and there was 700 amazing I'm making this up, 700 amazing governors there. And these people are change makers and they care. And this audience was just truly, truly special. And I felt so connected to them. And when I saw the feedback that they gave me on my presentation on team building. My mind was absolutely blown, and I'm so grateful. Check it out below, right? So it's more about how awesome the audience is, how great they are, and how appreciative you are that your message resonated with them. And it's proven through the data and the testimonials that you share. So that is showing that. I really do not recommend going, I'm the best speaker in the world. I got 99% value. Boom. Like that'll always make people like silently hate you.
That's a great frame.
Yeah.
It's a good reframe.
Stephanie had a
Fantastic.
question about.
Oh yes, who's doing the integration? SpeakerFlow is doing the integration. Yep. So we'll set you with the automation up. We'll take care of it for you if you go down that path. And then yeah, Stephanie, like I said, you get to work with me. But you know, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. So you know, take it for what it's worth. Steven, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming. I think that's kind of the tail end of the questions. If there's anything lingering and someone wants to ask a question, certainly you're welcome to. But I think we did the thing, you guys. I will be sending you all an email, those that registered, of course, with the slide deck. I'll send you the links to the resources that I mentioned, Watertight Selling and the Welcome Series. I'll include the link to sign up for Talkadot already if you haven't, the automation guide, and the forum, of course, if you want us to build that out for you. So again, don't be like me, 7 call to actions, but we just want to provide all the value that we possibly can for you guys. So that email will be coming shortly. You'll have it in your inbox, certainly by the end of the day. So it was a pleasure seeing all of you. Hopefully we'll see you on the next one.
Taylor,
keep us posted on how the Talkadot thing works.
Leave us with some wisdom. What is the Taylor philosophy that guides the way that you interact with the world, Taylor? We got a bunch of inspirational speakers. Oh my
goodness. Here. Inspirational speakers. I just don't know if I can put myself in that category, you know? Like
Taylor, so I'll ask you this. When you look at the average human, what do you think separates you from the average person you see shopping?
Oh man, how do you say this and not sound like such a you know?
Let's do it. Let's go.
So,
what's your philosophy?
All right, so
what drives you?
Yeah, so okay, so you know how people say like I value time, I value money, I value these types of things. Time and money are the ones that pop up the most. And a lot of people will be like, I don't value money as much as I value time. Well, there's one thing I value more than time itself, which is a little bit different than what I've heard from most people. And that is what is going on in my head at any given time. This is actually why I'm so passionate about systems. If you ever guys want to have a conversation over a beer, the idea of systems for me is that it alleviates all the crap that's in my head and makes space for the thoughts that I want to have. I don't need to remember to follow up. I don't remember need to do a project or do all these automations. Like the systems are going to tell me how to do that. I can just check in with them and start knocking out tasks. If my brain is cluttered, you know, I feel like I can't think clearly. I can't have the creative thoughts that I want. I'm not even making good use of my time anyway, just because I'm feeling overwhelmed. And so one of the philosophies that I carry personally is that the only thing more valuable than time for me is what's going on in my head, because I can't make use of the time anyway.
That is what I said in the chat is this is the magic of the last minute, and why I always appreciate the people who stay to the end, because that is really profound, dude. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. What about you?
I genuinely believe that a philosophy that dictates most that I do is I never believe I'm the most talented person or even close to it. I never believe that I am really good. I do believe I have a really strong work ethic and a really good value system. So I think work ethic and value system, I'll admit when I'm wrong. I don't let my ego get in the way of that. And I'm willing to work in the things that I'm good at. I don't want my talent to just... I know there are things I'm good at. I shouldn't say I'm not good at most things. I know there are certain things I'm good at, but I would never want the talent to be the thing that gets me through. I want my work ethic to guide me. So that is a huge component of how I choose to interact with the world.
Man, respect.
Thank you.
Get a name.
No one ever turns it around on me, so thank you. No one ever.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I get that all the time. Yeah, just flips it around a little bit. You know, I can't believe these guys are still hanging out. Like we got 15 attendees here, guys. It was good seeing you. Go make the best of your afternoon. I'll be emailing all of you shortly with everything. Again, let us know how we can help. We hope you find the integration super valuable. And as you guys have successes with us, please share those with us. We get to solve tech bugs all the time, but if you guys see some success with it, definitely keep us posted. We'd love to hear how valuable it is
For the record,
and help us make it better.
I gotta jump in, Taylor. So many people will
Man.
say, "Hey, this is the thing that's broken with my thing. Could you fix it, Taylor?" But then they go out and like crush some amazing contract and never go, "Hey, Taylor,
crush it," and you never hear about it.
Thanks for knocking it out the park with this incredible background. I appreciate that. I didn't have to do nothing. Thanks so much. Like that's the email I challenge all of you to find and send. Do it. I invite you.
That would make our days. Yes. All right, guys. See you later. We'll send the recording here shortly. Happy Wednesday.